Audience, today with your favorite twin flames, we have a special guest who was damn near murdered by her husband. We got to talk about it because it's some serious stuff. And we're going to bring up some things about religion too, and how religion is actually affecting you. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Coming up. Audience, welcome back. It's your favorite twin flames. We are here. Hi, best friend.
Hi, boo. How you doing, sweetie?
Listen, man, I'm doing much better. Last week was rough.
Yes.
I think we talked about that. Last week was a little rough.
Sure
I had
did.
some challenges, girl.
Well, listen, now we back.
We are back and brand friggin' new.
Raising the vibrations.
That's what we do, sunshine and sunflowers.
Exactly. You know, we got to have do a show one time where we just have like you have a sunshine and I have a sunflower.
I'm with it.
All right, we're going to do that. We're going to work on that. I'm going to go on Amazon.
So yeah, girl, let me tell you, there's something I did want to bring up about the course of my week. I did have a little bit of an issue with like my interactions with people, right? I know we had talked about this personally offline, and I had analyzed my life because I have an issue with women.
You sure do. Except for me, y'all. Except for me.
Except for you.
Yes.
And I don't know why. Like, we design our lives, and people, the world has to have awareness of this fact.
Yes. So she designed having issues with women.
I designed my life this way.
Yes, you did.
And I'm not sure why, because, you know, it was definitely a challenge for me because I want friends, and I'm vibrant and I'm bubbly and
yes.
I like to interact. And it's unfortunate because I really want to create warm and loving friendships with women, but for some reason, they don't like me.
They don't like you. Well, they don't like me either. That's why I got you and one other friend. And a host of family members.
Exactly.
So the 3-dimensional level of me is saying the reason why you having issues because you're only supposed to have one friend.
That's what
me.
it is.
But the fifth dimensional level, the person I am, is more of a lesson that you had to learn.
I'm glad you said that. Because
yes.
that is so true. There was definitely a lesson that I had to learn. And it was all part of the master lesson of me having a certain level of confidence.
Yes.
It was about having self-confidence and self-love. Mm-hmm. And I had to redirect the energy back to myself.
Yes.
So
definitely.
even though as an adult, and I mean, I didn't become aware of how these negative relationships really did have an effect on me until I became an adult. But all this started when I was a child.
Yes.
In junior high, you know, I had one friend and she cursed me the fuck out for no reason. And she was my best friend.
Aww.
In the church.
Ooh. Well, if you seeing this, you better repent. Let me stop.
And she was the pastor's daughter. Come on, we getting worse.
This is a Tyler Perry movie here.
But I really had to grow and learn and understand. And I went through a very deep transition and a level of awareness of myself and having to really grasp the idea of self-love.
So it's funny that you say that because, and I keep saying it's funny that you say that, but anywho, it's funny that you say that because going back to the contracts.
Yeah.
These people that were mean to you all these years were in contract. They were the villains for you to learn this lesson.
I was going to say that.
But I'm going to show you, audience, how we as human beings, don't pass the test right away.
Yeah.
Because how many women do you think had to hurt you? Not hurt you, but disrespect you for you to get there, for you to wake up?
Yeah, I don't have enough fingers.
So exactly.
Yeah.
So you kept going and going and going, but that's how life be.
Yes.
You know, they test us over and over again. Like I mentioned before, it's like no one could ever say they didn't know because they keep throwing these tests at you. So they threw several women at you.
Yes.
And now you're like in your 40s waking up saying, wait a minute.
If you don't stop telling people my age.
Girl, but you don't look like you 40. You
You're
sure
right.
You better what's the word? You better appreciate the 40 or embrace it.
I'm embracing my
Embracing
40s.
it. Shit, I'm close to 50.
Yeah. What? You beautiful.
So, but yeah. So with that being said, So it took you a while to learn the lesson, and that's what most of us do, and that's why this show is here, because we're trying to cut down the amount of lessons amount of tests you got to take.
Yes.
Because you got to learn the lesson and you got to pass the test.
Indeed.
So unfortunately, you was not enlightened years ago, because if you enlightened years ago, you might have stopped in your early 30s.
Right.
With the amount of women you let come into your life.
Yeah.
So what was the conclusion we made the other day with this problem?
That it's not fair. Number one, it's not fair, but our villains come into our lives for a reason.
Yes.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to say this too. I want to thank my haters.
Yeah. They did an awesome job.
All of my friends, all of my ex-friends. I want to thank y'all. I mean, there's girls I cut off recently. I had to cut you off because you're not going to treat me any old kind of way.
Exactly.
And I have a certain value of myself now. Mm-hmm. So I totally get it. And my thing is that I obviously reflected something of myself into you.
Yes.
That you wanted to fix too. Mm-hmm. So it was a mutual agreement.
Yes.
It was a mutual spiritual agreement.
It was, because it was a contract. And like I said, when all of you go back to heaven, you're all friends.
We're all friends.
And you're going to hug them. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's the cryptic concept of everything. And it took me a long time. Like, really? So I signed up for somebody to treat me like shit? Like,
but listen, there are girls that are walking around here that don't learn the lessons from their haters.
Yes.
And it makes them more arrogant.
It does. And actually, it makes the heart
and angry.
Yeah. And then they affect other people too with this anger.
They do.
So now you're not going to take that, because you've been through it so many times, because you're a spiritualist and you're enlightened, you're not going to bring that energy to someone else. It's just that you're going to handle people differently.
Yes.
But what I really think is going to happen, now that you acknowledge it for what it is and understand why you had to get that lesson, and you passed the test now, I think moving forward, you could kind of trust the women that you meet moving forward. You're just going to look at them with a side eye, and you're going to watch for the signs, because there are signs.
I'm going to feed them all you bitches with a long handle spoon.
So that's unfortunate, but you have me.
I do.
So you don't need anybody else.
Hi, friend. Well, I'm so blessed to have you. That's for sure.
Yes.
So listen, we have a special guest here today.
We sure do.
And this guest is actually one of my clients.
Yes, indeed.
She came to me and wanted a quantum healing experience. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy to introduce her here to the panel today. And Miss Sunny Sincera Austin is here. And welcome to the show, Miss Sunny.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Janine and Kisha, for having me.
Indeed.
I appreciate you so much.
Indeed.
Excellent.
So Sunny did come to me, and she again expressed that she was interested in quantum healing, but she gave me a little bit of information about her life experience, obviously, that led to the quantum healing. And Miss Sunny, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us, why did you choose to do quantum healing?
Well, I had just a little bit of my background. I was raised in a very religious household. I was born into a religion and raised in a very religious household. And over the years, there was a lot of, as I got older, I realized that there was just a lot of, control as part of it. So I eventually broke free from it. And then I learned a lot through other trauma that I experienced. And we'll get into that later. But what led me here was actually studying some of the things online about, who I am as a person, and learning about our power, and learning about, spiritual principles, as well as doing some study of Dolores Cannon's works. And I was just fascinated, and it really resonated with me as being really what I should be learning about. And so I did, and I was just fascinated. And of course, eventually I met someone, and there's a contrasting relationship that led to me actually finding out about you both.
Yes.
And it was just an amazing thing that I learned. And I said, and of course, since you do apply many of her principles, I said, and it also came from a trusted source, the information. I said, let me check you guys out. And or should I say you gals out? You gals, let me check you gals out. And you were great online. And I said, this is it.
I love it.
Me
We were
too.
so glad that you found us because we
Yes.
had a very great experience. I was so honored to actually participate in your healing process because one of the very first things that I discovered was that how advanced you were spiritually. So it was, you discussed the fact that you grew up in a very religious household and your religion it really molded who you were, obviously leading into your childhood. But I found it so interesting how you all of a sudden wanted to become more enlightened. And that's why we're all really here, is to really, attract people and open people up into the idea of spirituality.
Yes.
And you are so grounded in that now, especially the experiences that you had growing up. So, I just find that very interesting. And I just want to bring in the fact that you had a very traumatic experience as well, that eventually we want to bring up a little bit later. And I found that all of these things that led to who you are now, it really points you into a great direction as far as your purpose is concerned. So we were so glad to have you and share that experience. So, you growing up in spirituality, just share a little bit more about that experience as a child, and especially when it came to your parents and how it made you feel now as growing up into adulthood.
Well, I'd like to just make the distinction that I grew up in a very restrictive religious environment. And now, as I advanced through life and I learned the differences between religion and spirituality, and there's a huge difference. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that. And so the religious part was there. And of course, during the process of participating in that, it was always introduced from the church's view that it's religion and spirituality connected. But in actuality, it was really about religious ritual.
Yes.
And so I didn't learn that, of course, until I was much older and able to think for myself. And thankfully, I was able to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not able to disconnect from that because they're taught to believe something so strongly that it gets entrenched into who they are as a person. And so they can't break free from that. But I was able to, and I'm thankful for that.
When you became enlightened, were you angry at religion at one point? Did you feel like religion lied to you? Or was there, from a spiritual standpoint, how did you start looking at religion?
Okay. So initially I was angry.
Okay.
Because it's natural to, when you first find out and you first realize, like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was.
Indeed.
Was it hard? Was it hard?
It wasn't as hard as some other people.
Okay.
So, everybody's persona or their personality is different.
Okay.
I came from a very, not to go too far into it, my mother was pretty much the leader of the family, and then I was the firstborn, and the firstborn in her family as the first grandchild, and I was also the first child. So I had that kind of leadership type of mentality. So I was strong enough to see, yes, it did disturb me. It's natural when you realize that you've been deceived for so long.
Yes.
That you're angry. And unfortunately, some people get to the point of suicide.
Yeah.
But for me, I was strong enough to say, wait a minute, this is crazy. And I did cry. I cried for I lamented over it for about 3 or 4 days. And this was part of the development.
Yes.
And this is part of the transformation, as hard as that was.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Not to cut you off,
No,
but
that's okay.
I know when I had my aha moment, because I've talked about it several times and we joke about it. Janine gave me seeds. And it was hard because I was like heavy into, not heavy, I was never like a real holy roller, but I stood by my religion and this is what it is. And nothing else can be nothing else can be the truth. And when I had my out of body experience in 2018, it woke me up, but I still was in my religion. And then Janine started giving me tools. She's like, watch this video, and I still was kind of like like somebody pulling you on the ground and your nails is in the like that. I'm like, oh. So for you mentioned Dolores Cannon because kind of sort of that's what was my aha moment. Like I woke that was one of the keys for me. Mm-hmm. What was the key for you that you said, wait a minute, what did you say?
Well, I think I was trying to think back to a moment. I don't think it was a specific moment. I think it was a series of things because I was always a critical thinker as a child.
Okay.
And so from childhood, I remember coming home one day, we went to our services, they call them meetings, so we went to a meeting and now I call them indoctrination meetings, but that's essentially what it was.
You better hush, girl.
Exactly. So I came home and I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I remember hearing on the stage, the speaker was saying that, you need to be humble and take the leadership, what we tell you to do. More or less that sort of message was there that, we can tell you what to do. This is how things are done. And, just go along with it, even if you don't quite understand it fully. And I remember coming home that night and saying to myself, and also it was bordering on being misogynistic because women in that group were not allowed to have positions. It was just mainly the men who were the leaders of the congregation. So it was kind of misogynistic a little bit. And pretty much the men were the ones who had the hierarchical structure, and they had, they were looked upon. Those who were higher up in the organization were, of course, given accolades, and everybody, of course, kowtowed to those.
Yeah, so everyone looked up to men for the most part.
Yes, so that was more or less the dynamic there, and so I remember coming home that night, saying to myself, I'm a female and I've got a mind. I'm going to use my mind.
Go ahead, girl power.
And she was young.
Yeah. I was no more than 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to use my mind. I don't care what they say. I'm going to use my mind.
That's incredible.
And so, and then considering the example I had of my own mother, who was a single parent at one point after, she got divorced from my dad. And, she had to take, charge.
Yeah.
And not only for herself and her child, but also for the her siblings, because she was the oldest child as well.
Yeah.
And so all of that factored into how I became somewhat strong-minded, if you will.
Yes.
And so I think it was a progression, because it wasn't just like one thing.
Okay, it was like a building block.
It was a building block, exactly.
Now, what age were you when you said, okay, enough, I can't do this anymore?
I was in my late 30s.
Okay.
Because there was a slight pressure, not a lot of pressure, because, it's about getting married and, making sure, because you have to get married within the organization. And they usually excommunicate people for things that they don't approve of. But marriage is tricky, because marriage is sanctified by God, right?
Right.
Yes.
So if you marry someone and he's not a part of the organization, just for clarity, I'm talking about a specific group, Jehovah's Witnesses, which is what I was part of. Okay. But when I refer to religion, I'm not restricting it to just them.
Of course.
Okay, so I just want to make that
trust me,
definitely.
We know.
Exactly. It's but they, that was what the particular one that I was in. And so so marriage is sanctified by God. So you're not going to excommunicate someone who gets married.
Right.
even though they're not part of the Jehovah's Witness religion.
So
So
I just want to clarify, because if you wanted to date or marry somebody outside of the religion, it was looked down upon. But instead of, I'm assuming that either it's probably easier to just not choose somebody inside the religion. However, if you choose somebody outside the religion, you kind of have to indoctrinate them into the religion. Is that correct?
Yes, you would either try to indoctrinate them, or, if they're not involved, then you can go ahead and make that decision and get married. I mean, they're not going to excommunicate you for that, because obviously marriage is quote unquote, as I said, sanctified by God. So you're gonna excommunicate me because I got married? So that's, but it was looked down upon. You see, it was kind of an unspoken thing, you want to get married in the truth, as they called it. But the real truth is
Truth
that
be told,
you were limited in your finding. I just hear stories, people running all over the globe to other Jehovah's Witness congregations to just try to hook up with somebody.
Club hopping. That's like club hopping.
Trying to find exactly. It's just like, and in my mind, I was like, that is just ludicrous.
Ain't that some bullshit?
Like, who's doing that?
Right.
Like, but people actually do that.
I always play the devil's advocate. So like, okay, I'm envisioning a woman going somewhere to find a husband in another church. Like, what do you do? Like, do you button down your shirt a little bit and you sit there and you look at somebody across the congregation? Like,
I don't even know why you got to imagine it. Didn't you grow up in the Baptist church?
I met my husband in the club. So
all I'm saying is, bitches is scandalous in the church regardless.
But I'm saying, like, how do you give up that energy that I'm only here to find a man?
We do it all the time in the church.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
Exactly.
You wear a little extra. I don't know.
You gotta put a little more perfume.
Yes.
And in that religion, you really couldn't wear makeup, right?
No, you can.
Okay.
You're thinking of the Pentecostal, I think is the
okay.
But no, you can wear makeup.
So the idea, like finding out that your religion is not the truth, quote unquote,
or your truth,
or your truth,
because those that are involved, that's their truth, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but all of it's like finding out that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Joe.
Yes, you're like, damn,
that shit would make me mad. That shit made me mad. But
oh my God.
But listen, Sonny, I wanted to know about at what point did you actually start to come into your enlightenment?
Well, there were some factors. That was, of course, one major one, the religious trauma, because I just felt really restricted with my life. I wasn't able to do anything. And it was like, even going to college, I was looked down upon. And even my mother was. And she had to, because she came up in a time where she came up in the 60s and such. Okay. And so she had this young child. And, she's like, I'm going to school. I got to take care of myself and so on. And it's just something that you realize that you have to take care of you. You can't, these people are telling you what to do, but there's no way. So I also came up and I'm like, I'm going to do what I have to do. So I went to college and, developed myself as a person. And I had my answers ready when people in the religion would come around.
Right. Okay.
And, you're going to college? What are you doing? Well, I'm going to use my skill to get into it was called Bethel.
Yeah.
And it was a Brooklyn headquarters, which, some people were where back in the day it had the watchtower thing on the Brooklyn Bridge and you would see it. Read Your Bible Daily was their motto up there.
I remember that building.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. Going way back. They've since moved. But the point is that was there, and their facility was always encouraging people to make the ministry their, goal, to be out in the ministry. And, the truth of the matter, listen, I live in the real world. Yeah. I got to make some money.
Yeah,
exactly.
I got to find a career that I enjoy, so on and so forth. So that's
do you
what
feel
I
like
did.
College, you hit in college, like you went to college and was like,
yes,
all right,
I was ready.
Yes,
I was ready with my answers. I was like,
I'm ready.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Bethel or wherever, and utilize my program because I was into computers.
Yeah,
programming.
Okay.
And they needed that. that at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got my programming skills ready. And they're like, oh, okay. So that
Looking
was
at you
just kind of like,
sideways.
okay,
Yeah.
they'll leave me alone,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I'm doing this for the religion.
Yes, because my father was a quote unquote, there's all kinds of lingo around religious groups. So this particular group called it elders. You're an elder at that time. They've changed the names now.
Yeah.
And when you talk to them now, it's like, oh, well, we don't use that term anymore. Like, yes, but that used to be
they
the
try
name.
to be brand new.
Yeah,
I get it.
like nothing's changed. That's just a different name. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was equivalent to like a deacon.
Okay.
So, growing up with that, you were always, as a child of someone, you're always being looked at and, oh, what are they doing? The child is, when your father doesn't have any particular role in the congregation, people just kind of ignore you. But when you're
your dad didn't have any clout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when
Go over there, peasant.
Yeah. But when you're, the child of someone, and then at one point he was overseeing the whole congregation, so it's like you're always being looked at.
Yeah,
like a preacher's kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so I knew the drill.
But there's a thing. So again, I want to have clarification on at what point did you like really say, you know what, something is happening here. I need to start paying attention to this, and I'm becoming aware of something. At what point did you really tap in to this your spiritual self?
So that was one thing, and I'm sorry for veering off, but yes, that was one big thing that led me in a different direction. But then what took me even further was what I had to deal with my husband.
Yes.
And so that really catapulted me into really heavy spirituality and really breaking me open to learning and understanding.
So when you left the religion, were you had you met your husband already?
Yes. No. I met him after I left.
Now,
yes.
when you left, is your mom and dad alive?
My dad is alive.
Okay.
So I have a father and stepfather. So my stepfather's still alive, and he's really my father. So that's who I refer to.
And then your
father.
mom, is she?
And my mom has since passed.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I just want to ask this question: when you left the religion, was your mom still alive? And how did she react?
Yes. So my mother was still alive, and she was very close to me. I was close to her. I was firstborn child, and I saw her through the struggles of early life as a child and these things. So there was a closeness there. And then I have a sister who came out of her second marriage.
Right.
So, she, of course, was disappointed.
Okay.
But she maintained her relationship with me, and that was really important.
So she didn't ostracize you?
No.
Nice.
Okay.
No.
That's
and that
good.
was very important. And I was wondering how that was going to go because we were somewhat close.
Yeah.
And so we still forged our relationship together.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But at what age did you meet your husband? And tell me about your personality at that point, and especially when it comes to your newfound spirituality. What level were you at with your spirituality when you met your husband?
Well, at that point, I didn't have a connection to spirituality yet.
Okay.
I had just left the religion, and I had decided that I'm going to start, meeting people, dating, really getting involved in different things. And so I did. And it was at that point that I met him, and we kept running into each other at the gym, and it was kind of weird. So we said, okay, because I had met him previously, and I was like, nah. But then we ran into each other 2 more times at the gym, and I was like, okay. And he was like, okay, look. And that was it. That was history. The rest was history.
Now, obviously, with any relationship, it's the fuzzy feeling. That's my cutie pie.
Mm-hmm.
And you meet your representative in the beginning,
right?
But when did you start seeing Did you start seeing any signs before you got married?
No. So he was really a good person.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, but he eventually started to suffer from depression.
Okay.
And I think what kicked it off was he eventually got diagnosed with cancer. And so that, I think, psychologically had an impact on him.
Okay.
And I think from that point, he started to change. And so that's what led to a whole series of things later. And I was being supportive as much as I could, but then I started to see the decline emotionally, just becoming very difficult. And, so a good portion of our marriage was good. It was really good.
How many years were you married altogether?
9.
Okay,
9
so that's a
years.
good amount of time.
Yeah.
What year of the marriage was he diagnosed with cancer?
20.
I'm sorry, not what year. I'm talking about so you have 1 to 9. So was it like the 8th or 7th year?
It was I want to say 6.5 years in or so. Yeah.
Okay, so you would say like the last 3 years of your marriage.
Yeah.
Was trying.
Was starting to, that's when it was a slow process, but it was starting to go into decline.
Okay.
And then I just started feeling strange, and I was like, and he recovered from everything because he had prostate cancer. So he recovered fully, but there was just a line that was crossed in his mind. And then because, as I learned later, I didn't know at the time, but if you're putting negative energy out and you're into this depression, it just spirals down.
That's exactly right.
Because that's what's creating and the things that were happening in his life were crazy, because it was crazy good in the beginning because he was feeling good and I was feeling good, and he initially had one of the highest paying jobs of his life when he was married to me.
Wow.
Okay.
And
so y'all was living a good life.
Yeah, we were good, and then, that, like I said, the prostate cancer and everything started to go downhill, lost a job, and all these things started happening. And even he laughed about, it was so weird, you manifest what you talk about. He laughed about, there was something in the news or something, but somebody got fired by email. He got fired by email later.
Wow.
And I had never heard of that. And I was like, and he was laughing about it at the time. And then here we are about like a year later, and that's exactly what happened, because it was just, everything was just falling apart.
Yeah.
The job and everything. He had gotten a new job. Yeah. It was only part-time, which certainly wasn't that great, but it was better than nothing. And then he lost that one through an email. And I was like, what is going on?
Oh, that was a universe and some demons on him.
Exactly. It was a darkness that was there. Now I understand.
That's exactly.
At the point that it was happening, I didn't know what was going on. Right. I was like, okay,
and we had talked about that. Yeah. We talked and we mentioned the fact that there was actually a negative energy attachment on him.
Exactly.
But moving forward, before we move forward, one key thing I want to find out from you: when you guys were living the good life, what was his relationship with the other side? Was he into religion? Was he into spirituality? Like who? Because some relationships, you have one person that's really into their thing with God, and then the other person is just coasting. What kind of individual is he in relation to God?
He wasn't really involved with God and church and anything. Once in a while, we would go to a non-denominational Christian church.
Okay.
Pretty much, but not really involved a lot with religion, but he had no issues with going to something non-denominational.
And with your spirituality, was he open to it? Like, were you able to speak about your spirituality, or it was something you kept to yourself?
At that time, I was before I really got heavy into it, so I wasn't as involved. I went to a couple of different, I went to a couple of Christian, non-denominational Christian, sermons. I attended a few of those, and then I went to Buddhist organization.
Okay.
SGI. I went there for a while, and but then I started really thinking more along spiritual lines, and that came after. And I think that was where the point that things really took off for me. It was at the end of that marriage. Yes.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's talk about the end of the marriage. Mm-hmm. Was at the end of the marriage, you said, you just mentioned a few seconds ago, the spirituality part, did it progress after the end of the marriage or right before, would you say?
Very much toward the end, I started looking at a few things. One of the biggest, my biggest teachers, or my most major teacher, I would say, is Louise Hay. Through her book, You Can Heal Your Life. That was essentially the first book that I really picked up. And I had it in my library for a few years.
It's sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. To be waiting like I'm waiting.
Right.
Yes.
You look at it like not today, not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yes.
And I said, and I bought it. I forgot who told me about it, and I just didn't pick it up. And eventually I just saw it there, and I was like, let me read this.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of everything.
Okay.
And just amazing. So what happened at the end, it was another trauma because I was trying to be supportive of my husband initially, especially during the prostate cancer issue, and I was very supportive. But at that time, I was feeling kind of strange, and I said, I think we may need to separate. But when he got the diagnosis, I says, okay, look, I can't. That would be, I'm the type of person that I'm not going to kick you when you're down.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not going to do that. So I didn't say anything to him. I was about to speak to him about it. And I said, okay, let's just see what happens with this. We got to get through this period. So as time went on, we went through it. But then when things started declining and getting worse, it was just too much.
For you or
for me?
Okay.
And just for the whole relationship, it's like, where are we going to go from here? Because if it continues in this vein, we're going to end up at each other's throats.
So let me ask you, I just want to clarify, it was because personality changes started to occur?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I was trying to, he was becoming not verbally abusive, but just argumentative.
Right.
Like I could just say hello and there's an argument. How was your day? Why the hell you want to know? And blah. It just like you can.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, okay, I can't even open my mouth.
Wow, that's very intense.
Yeah. So it's just like I say. Now I initially thought about separation like early on, but then this was getting to the point of where I'm not going to live with this,
right?
Because if we continue down this path, we're just going to end up killing each other or whatever.
Right.
Because my mindset at that time was totally different because this was like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So as things progressively got worse, he decided to do these, he waited to the 0th hour to suddenly start trying to change things. Let's go to therapy. Let's do these things you wanted to do, things I had wanted to do like a year or two ago. And it's like, oh, let's do that. Okay, let's do this. And it's like this 0
to 100.
It's like
by that time you probably was already checked out mentally.
I was checked out. I'm like, are you serious?
And I know that had to be very challenging for you. Indeed, because you were probably like, wait, where are we going with all this? And your soul was probably like so confused.
Yes.
And energetically, I'm pretty sure it drained you.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It did. And I said, this has got to end. I can't. So he had made a couple of statements a couple of times, and I intuitively, my intuition was there, but it wasn't real strong, but I felt something. And he said to me, I'm not going through another divorce.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You're messing with the wrong one. I'm not changing my mind on this because things had progressed so low that the vibration was, I didn't know it was vibration. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, of course.
But the vibration was so low. It was just like, no, there's no way. We can't, because my personality is more uplifting anyway, just in general. So I was like, okay, this can't continue. So eventually, one day he woke up in the morning, the day after his mother left, after we had driven her home the night before, and she tried to talk to him because she realized there was a problem. Mm-hmm. The very next day when we were alone, he tried to kill me. And he woke up asking me if I had made a decision, and I said, oh, yes, we're definitely And that's when he went on the attack.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was able to get out. It led to me having a near-death experience.
Wow.
Because that's a whole nother thing, but in my it's like I couldn't dwell on it at that moment because I was trying to save my life.
Of course.
So I had to get out. I was on the 3rd floor of our townhouse, and the door was closed, and I was, there was no one could hear me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? And he's pummeling me, and we ended up on the floor, and because he did it so suddenly, I was totally caught off guard, and I just like froze for a second. I was like, this person who said they loved me is trying to kill me now.
So what did he do? It was just like, I know that it wasn't just necessarily him pulling you down to the floor. What exactly happened when he said, when you said that you didn't want to be with him anymore?
So I said, no. I said, I haven't changed my mind about the divorce. Then he came around. He walked around. He says, I feel like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You make me feel like garbage. And then came around and stabbed me in my side. Apparently he had a knife. I didn't see it.
Wow.
But stabbed me in my side. I was in the bed because I was working from home on my computer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't believe it because like I said, he was a nice man. Of course, he was in a deep depression.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I guess, that how far it was going to go.
Oh,
and
my
so,
God.
of course, I had to jump up, and I saw stars because he punched me so hard.
Oh my gosh.
And that literally, the cartoons I saw reminded me of the cartoons, like, oh yeah, that really does happen.
Yeah.
Because I had never been punched so hard in my life.
Oh my God.
So then, of course, then we ended up on the floor, and I was just trying to defend myself, and the energy of me pulled me. It was a high level, thankfully. There was enough room under the bed. It was a queen size 4-poster bed. So it was a large bed. So there was enough room under there, and somehow I got pulled under, and it felt like someone was actually pulling me.
Wow.
That was your angels.
Wow.
And, I didn't have time to dwell on it at that moment, but I'm telling you in slow motion because, now.
But you were protected in that moment. I
was protected. I was protected, and my mind split. Like, it was just like a mental split.
Okay.
And there were two sides talking to each other.
Mm.
And it was, the first thing that was said was, your spirit is strong.
Okay.
The other, I guess that was the ego mind,
Right.
said, what are you talking about? I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like anybody would say.
And the others,
wait.
Yeah,
You're gonna make it. You're gonna be fine.
But that's how they are on the other
You're
side.
gonna make it.
They're so calm.
exactly.
No one's here to save me. How am I gonna be fine? Meanwhile, he's
like-
probably trying to grab you to finish you off.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh.
Don't worry, Sonny. You're
Exactly.
gonna make it.
It says, you're going to be okay. You have a lot of work that you have to get done.
No. But no, you're laughing. That's powerful.
That is powerful. That is powerful. But when she's in this state of shock and someone,
Yeah,
that's
the
like,
ego. The ego.
Janine, that's like you getting raped and somebody says, don't worry, you're going to be fine. You have work to do. You're like, could you save me from getting raped first?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
and I'm not trying to make light of your situation, but
I can look back and laugh at it now because I have a whole different understanding now.
Yes.
And it was just like.
So in the meantime, you're under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
At the point that you're under the bed, does he continue try to comfort you, or does he?
No.
Okay, so that he leaves.
Because now, he wasn't a big man, but he wasn't as small as me.
Okay.
So he couldn't, even if he came under there, you can't fight me.
Gotcha.
Under there. So I was just watching his feet, and I was trying to talk to him. I said, "Listen, your mother," because he just saw his mother.
Yes.
And I was like, your mother, everybody loves you. I even care about you. I could still say that at that point. And I didn't realize it until later what the power of what he said at that moment. and he got the knife, walked around, and he says, I am done with this life.
Wow.
I didn't digest it at that moment, but it wasn't until later. He said, oh, wait a minute.
Wow.
Now,
He said
were you
this
guys
life.
home? Were you guys home by yourself, or
Yes.
so? How did the cops get called?
So as this thing progressed, he went around to the side of the bed. So on his side, he laid on the floor, and I guess he was going to do something with the life. So when he laid down on the floor, he says, okay, this is funny. I look at it now. It's funny. He said, I'm done with this life. No, he said, Sansere, I'm going to let you live. I'm done with this life. And then he laid down. And in my mind, my ego said, are you damn right? I don't want to fucking live.
No, that's right.
I'm not dying now, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't say it verbally.
Yeah.
So anyway, he went around to the side, and then as I'm lifting up a little, I couldn't lift fully up.
Yeah, you've been stabbed in your lung too.
And I'm under the bed. So my head hits against the slats. There's 3 long slats underneath the bed.
Yeah.
And it moved. And I was like, okay, grabbed it, pulled it down. And so when he lied down, I says, okay, the door was closed. I says, okay, I have to get out of the, I think I can get out of the room. So I just ran out from under the bed with the slat ready to use it as a weapon and get the door open. I got it open, and he had jumped up and started after me. The stairs were right nearby outside the bedroom, so I was able to, start down the stairs. He grabbed my top, and I let my top go and just continued on and let the slat go, ran all the way downstairs, ran outside.
Wow.
And asked somebody to call the cops.
Wow,
and,
you
Thank
literally
God.
escaped with your life.
Yeah.
Because I think he would have finished you off.
Yeah, he was going to, yeah.
That was, that's deep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is an incredible story. I mean, we are all kind of like finding little kiki moments in all of this, but in reality, that was very significantly traumatic.
Yes.
And this is this is the thing I need the world to know. Is that when people actually go through these traumatic experiences such as this, and you come out of it alive, and it can even be a car accident. Like I've been in multiple car accidents, and you'd have this moment to step back and say, oh my God, something saved me, something protected me. God gave me a second chance at life.
Yes.
Right? And when you look at it in hindsight, we're really meant to look at these situations to say, you know what? I'm a survivor, and there's something that I still have to do here.
Right.
Exactly.
And and that happened for you.
Yes. Because the thing is, I knew years before that I needed to do something. I had a mission. I had to, write a book or do something.
Yes.
But at the time, this was like maybe 15, 20 years before, and I was like, but what would I write about?
Yeah.
Oh, and here we are. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
A whole channel has come out of it, a whole learning, a spiritual learning of transformation. That's what really led to it fully.
Yes.
Was that last experience. And I was just like, when I reflected on it, it's hard to think about it when you're in it, but years later, I'm like, oh my goodness.
And that's the whole thing. And this is what now I'm going to lead into the quantum healing because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about quantum healing and how it works. And for you, we went through different segments. We did actually touch upon some of your past lifetimes. And then we were able to, delve into your subconscious to find out the significance of that event, that traumatic event that happened in your life. And for you, I'm just like, I'm in awe because number one, I have to say this, everybody, because when I did, when I did your healing, one of the first things I said to you that I stand so firm in that, and it came out in your session, how not only strong you are, but how forgiving you were for your husband and the things that he did to you. And a lot of people don't have that power And I don't want to make this about myself, but I always find a relationship between my experiences and the people that I do quantum healing with and spiritual counseling. And it helps me to not only understand myself, but also understand the gift that I have. And one thing that I find so profound is that because I also went through a relationship that wasn't that great, but I found the significance of it, and it allowed me to forgive that individual, because I think I mentioned in a recent show that I actually had to meet that person in order for me to elevate into the next level of my spirituality.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that happened with you.
Yes.
Can you give us what was it about you that allowed you to forgive him?
Because forgiveness, I learned, it's not about that person. It's about freeing yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is what I want. I want to be free.
Wow.
Why would I want to hold on to the anger and pain or whatever? And then because of my spiritual learnings, along the way, I recognized that it actually, and people have a hard time with this, but everything is here to help you.
Oh my God, yes.
Thank you for saying that.
And that is hard. I mean, if someone had told me that in the middle of that mess,
Yes.
I would have been like, what the?
Yeah,
exactly.
You crazy shit. You don't get out my face with that.
How's that supposed to help me? Are you kidding?
Yeah. What? He just stabbed me in my lung. The hell?
You trying to kill me? You saying that's supposed to help me? Like how?
Yeah.
But then as I advanced, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
It's so freeing. And now I feel free, and the good things start to come.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you see the proof that, oh yeah, this forgiveness really works.
It works.
It has to be genuine. It has to come from a genuine place.
So, Sonny, can you be transparent in that relationship? And obviously, the two of you had a contract before you came down here, and you said, like, when you were seeing each other in the gym, you felt that attraction.
Yeah.
What lesson did you learn for you being with this man for 9 years? What was it what was it about that relationship, the lesson and the purpose of him being the villain in your life at that time?
She knows what it is.
The purpose was to help me elevate.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And I learned that from some of the books and readings that I did, that there are those souls here to help us elevate. As you mentioned earlier,
Yep.
with friends, I have the same girl issue.
Yep.
Same exact thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only have 2 women in my life that I know that no matter what, they'll be friends with me, and they won't just, we have a little minor disagreement. So what? We're sisters.
Exactly.
And I thought I had one many years ago. I knew for over 30 years. And that dissipated. But there was a purpose to that.
Yeah, she saw
because but you know what? People are attracted to your light, and that's what you asked me. You said, "What was the point of that?"
Yeah.
What was I supposed to learn from those relationships? And
Yes.
that's it.
Yes.
Is that people are intimidated by your light.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
they are.
Yes, they are.
And your light came about because you had to step into your spirituality.
Yes. Exactly. And everyone has access to it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everybody's not ready.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. The first one is, with the point is actually a point I want to make. I need for everyone to understand that when this happened to you, you were already enlightened and you were already in your spirituality. And for people who are on the journey,
She was coming into it.
But I need for people to understand that once you get enlightened, it doesn't stop from there.
Right.
No.
Then now your eyes are wide open, and now the test really begins.
Yes.
Because you
The
know
show
better
begins.
now. Yeah, the show
Yes.
begins. Because
Yeah.
now you're very heightened, and you're like, okay, this is what I'm learning, and this is gonna. When anything come to you, you're like, okay, this is an obstacle. Why am I getting this obstacle? It's a
Yeah.
pattern. What lesson am I learning? So I just want to make a point right there, and then I'm 48, so I forget what the second one.
It'll come to you, but I
Yeah.
want to make this other point, because when we went into her quantum healing,
Yes.
it came out that yes, Her and her husband were contracted together, obviously.
Excellent.
They had a contract before they came here that he was going to play that role in his life, in her life.
Interesting.
And the purpose of that relationship indeed was for him to do that, to elevate her.
Yeah. And that's cryptic.
Do you know how crazy that is? This man came to earth to literally kill her, to attempt to kill her.
Yes.
He sacrificed himself to allow this woman to become enlightened. That's powerful.
And that's why people have a hard time with spirituality.
That's exactly
because they
right.
can't understand, like,
Yes.
okay.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because you can't learn anything when everything is easy.
Come on,
what do you
with it.
learn?
Preach.
Come on with it,
Preach.
Sonny.
You don't learn any. People think that, oh, let me just take it easy. Everything's no. Now, at the same time, there's balance.
Yes.
It doesn't mean
Yeah.
you go out there, let me look for some crazy stuff to happen. No.
You find some obstacles.
And
So I can
there's
pass
some
these tests.
people who are hooked on drama in their life
Oh,
and they're
yes.
constantly in drama. No, we're not talking about that.
Yes.
And we're not talking about the other extreme, which is just to sit around and do. Because if you sit around and do nothing, you're not here to sit around and do nothing. You came here for a purpose.
That's right.
Yes.
And so that is the point, to fulfill those. And that when you go through those challenges, you elevate.
Exactly.
After you master it, because you knew before you got here that you were spirit. You can do anything.
Yes.
And then you go through the veil of forgetfulness and you come here and you experience these challenges and like, yeah, I'm going to knock this one down. I'm going to get through it. And then you get through it and you're like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I did it.
It makes you stronger.
You feel good.
Indeed. So
And
I want to
that's-
congratulate you.
Definitely.
And, you know, people have to understand the significance of villains.
Yeah.
And yes, your husband did play the villain in your life, but villains and this negative energy in this third dimensional world, even though it's everywhere, we all can't avoid it. It's here. The negativity is always here, no matter how it manifests in your life. But you have to capitalize it.
Definitely.
Capitalize off of it.
Definitely.
You know what it's equivalent to?
What's that?
Now that I'm saying it.
Uh-oh.
Anybody dabble in the stock market? It's like the stock market. You have to buy low. You have to buy low.
Yes.
You know, you buy low and hopefully that
Sell high.
And sell high. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't think of it. Buy low, sell high. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But what it's like is having that negativity coming into your life. You capitalize off of it in a way where you know, okay, this challenge is here. What is the universe trying to teach me?
Yes. Yes. And you know, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to ask you earlier, you signed a contract to be part of that religion you came into. What purpose did that religion serve you? Why do you think that you and your ancestor family picked that religion? Have you ever thought about that one?
That's a big one.
What was the
Because
lesson?
there's good that comes out of everything.
Definitely.
Like I said, everything is here to serve you.
That's right.
So we discussed what the point of going through my trauma with my husband, what point it served me to elevate me and really open up my spiritual third eye and all this. The purpose of that religion was to develop myself as a person who could speak to anyone about any subject.
Yes.
Because when you were out in the quote unquote preaching work, you were forced to just knock on a door and just, no matter what's going on, have an ability to get someone on the subject. Oh, you're having a difficult time with that. Oh, I'm very sorry. Okay, we're not going to hold you, but we want to ask you a very important question. Is there something that can help you feel better about your current situation or whatever? So any topic, you would be able to knock on that door and talk to the person about anything. And there is great, skillful power in that. That put Toastmasters to shame. I'm telling you, I didn't need Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Years of doing that.
Okay.
You know, so now here I am.
And you have your own podcast now, so
I have my
you're
mission.
public speaking. And
Yeah, and I'm not, and public speaking is one of the besides death, that's what people fear the most.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Indeed.
Yeah, you're right.
And that came up in her session. In
Yeah.
fact, it did actually confirm that she had to go through what she went through the religion and utilize the tools of being able to speak to everybody.
I love it.
Because
Yes.
God wants to use you later to be
Right.
able to talk more about the beautiful experience of spirituality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to help, share my story, help others that see, going through their own things, that yes, anything is possible. It really
Indeed.
is.
Now, let me ask you, when you called Janine and inquired about getting, well, I know it was just basically inquiring about getting services. What did you expect to get out of quantum healing?
Oh, well, most of it was based on what I had read from, since I had never had a hypnotherapy session. Basically, had read a few books from Dolores Cannon in her sessions, and I was just, I was excited about it because I had some limited information on a past life.
Okay.
And I says, okay, well, at least I'll learn more about that. And just kind of, I didn't really know what to expect, but I wanted the spiritual healing. I'd had a reading before, like just a reading on the phone, which actually pointed me to that whole story was amazing, about pointed me in the direction of the past life.
Okay.
But now I had an opportunity to learn more. That's what I was looking to gain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And
So
it was really good.
So
Really.
you have a podcast, Sunny TLC, right?
Yeah, the YouTube channel. Yes.
Yes, your
Yes.
YouTube channel, Sunny TLC. Who do you think at this point, after having your experiences, do you think you're advocating for?
Well, really, my mission and my passion is to really inspire others to embrace their purpose, whatever purpose they're here for. Embrace it.
Yes.
I love it.
Don't let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let people who don't understand it, because no one knows what another person's soul journey is for.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to veer off slightly. My husband said to me, and I don't remember what we were doing at the time, but it was around the time of this whole craziness. It was before it, but maybe 3 or 4 months before. He actually apologized to me. He apologized to me, not for something that was happening then. It was an apology for something that happened at another dimension of time.
Timeline, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I never forgot it. And I was like always wondering, and then I found out about another past life where he was my father.
Wow.
And he was an awful father. And that's what he was really, he didn't know why he was apologizing. No, he wasn't connected spiritually like that.
Yeah.
But one day he said to me, Sandra, I just want to tell you I'm really sorry.
So what that reminds me of is when my husband, he had something major had happened in his life. And he said to me, in the midst of the chaos, he says to me, I want to let you know I forgive you for all the things you've done to me. And I'm like looking around and he grabs my hand and he's like, I want to let you know I forgive you for all the things that you have done to me. And I'm looking around like, are you effing kidding me? And so then I sarcastically said, well, I forgive you for all the things you've done to me. And he goes, see, was that hard? I was like, and I'm like sitting there baffled because
Yes.
And then come to find out that in a previous life, I was his husband and I treated him like shit.
Yeah.
And I left him pregnant with 3 children. So altogether was 4 children. And I left him high and dry without an education and without a job.
Yeah.
So that's what he was actually forgiving me for.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes.
Because she found out
Exactly.
during her quantum healing that this is what you found out, that your ex-husband actually was your dad. That's why you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's enlightening as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People need to understand how important it is to find out your history.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then it all
is.
comes together.
Exactly.
together.
So
Exactly.
it's really it's a beautiful experience.
It
Indeed,
is,
we've all had our quantum healing
absolutely.
done. Who would you recommend quantum healing to at this point?
Oh, anyone who's open to it, and people are scared or frightened or whatever, but there's really nothing to be fearful of because
Please tell them.
the energy is loving. It's
Thank you.
Pure love.
It is.
And it's just amazing. And afterwards you feel that.
Yes.
And, so, some people have to still do some more research, do some more, it's a process of learning
But not even that. What we find is that people have a hard time facing themselves.
Yes.
So people might be interested initially, and then they're like, "Oh wait, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Wait, I take it back.
Yeah.
And that's really because they're not ready to face themselves for a multitude of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to accept people where we are.
Right.
I mean, where they are in their path, which is something that came up in your session as well.
Yes.
And I'm glad that this is a good segue because, you had also found out about family members that were played a part in your past, that were a part of your past life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you being a spiritual individual now, you are just, and this spirituality makes you so gung-ho.
Because you want to
just
bring
want to tell somebody that knows somebody.
You want to collect souls.
I swear to God, you want to tell somebody that knows somebody. This is great information.
It is.
And this is why we have this podcast.
But wait, when you tell somebody to know somebody to tell somebody, they sit there and look at you like you have, with 3 heads.
You got 4 heads. Shit.
They're
Indeed.
Yeah.
And then you stand there feeling like a freak sometimes, like, oops, are they going to try to commit me?
Exactly. Like you did today.
I did that. I'm sorry, boo.
I forgive you, boo.
Yeah.
But you found out that you understanding and being in this new state of enlightenment and you wanting to share this great information and this gift to the world, that people aren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happens with religion, is that religion keeps us from wanting to learn and explore new things about the universe and about ourselves and the power of ourselves and how miraculous God really truly is.
Definitely.
Yes.
And it's not as limiting as we believe that it is. It's not based off of hate. It's really not based off of fear.
No.
It's something far more greater than that.
Fear is what holds you back.
Fear is equivalent to evil.
And that's what a lot of, religions
They do.
They teach you.
It's grounded in fear.
Mm-hmm. It's grounded in fear.
So for us as light workers, we have to trust our teams, our spiritual teams that are around us, that the individuals that we're trying to work with. We're just a tool for the spiritual teams to get to that person, like how you had that book on your shelf waiting.
Yes.
Right.
With us, when we give people information, that's one of the little seeds that are planted in this person.
Mm-hmm.
For me and Janine, one of the things that we had to learn, and it took a while, but we finally got there, is that when we speak to someone, eventually they may get it. Now, it's very important for us as light workers to understand is that we really have to have patience.
Yes.
Because what I learned through meditation and prayer is that my spiritual team, I have, they give me downloads. And they said to me one day, you cannot pull someone out of their own religion.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. You have to allow them to be them.
Yes.
Give them the information, and however they swallowed it is on them.
Yeah.
But you did your job as a light worker. Give them the information gently. And then eventually the goal is for them to take the pill, swallow it, and start getting enlightened.
Just like you said with the book, with that book.
Yeah,
Yes.
they had that
I
book
had to
planted
get it.
there.
Yeah. And when your
It
soul
has
is
to come
ready.
at the right time.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's the challenge.
Yes.
Remember, that's another life challenge.
Yes.
Because that's what I run up against with several people in my family, and not too many friends. A couple of my friends, they're enlightened, so we're really connected. But when it comes to family and others, it's like, oh my goodness, and you want to scream because you see them doing things that are counterproductive and at a low vibrational level. But it's been a process, but I've had to learn to accept that, okay, they're at that vibrational level. They're not going to hear me.
Right.
They're not, I'm offering all these things, and that's what I had been doing, but they just can't see it.
Exactly.
And then and then you're building resistance with them because they can't see it, and they're like, well, no, why should I do that? And blah. And then it becomes this thing, and you don't want that.
And it causes a conflict within yourself too.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a little tactic that Janine and I started using. when I give people information, I give it to them lightly, whether it's a friend or family member or even a stranger I meet, but especially friends and family members. I tell them, listen, I'm telling you this for a reason, because when we all are back in heaven together and you find out the truth, I don't want you coming to me saying, you could have pulled my coattail and shoved this down my throat. So don't come to me in heaven and tell me that you don't. So I'm doing my job. I'm giving you the information. Whenever you get a chance, do your research.
Yeah.
But you will never be able to cut your tongue and say, you should have said something to me. I would have listened.
Exactly.
Because that's what is, I told you so kind of thing.
Right.
But no, so that's why I tell. And the funny thing is, people actually pause and think about it. Like, okay.
They do. I've used that line several times.
Yeah. Because that's and I do it gently. Here, take that. Like here you go. But don't ever say I never told you about
Exactly.
that.
Don't say I never told you.
Yeah.
I told an African lady one time, and she is heavy into God, into her religion, and she's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I said the same thing to her. I said, and here you go. And I said, I just want to let you know that African slaves had this gift when they came to America.
Yes.
And I said they were stripped from that gift. They had connection with the spiritual teams, with the ancestors.
That's
and I said
right.
they were stripped of that and they were given a Bible.
That's right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Indeed.
And she sat there and was like, and she's African, so she
Right.
knew what I was talking about.
Exactly.
I learned that in Woman King.
Boom.
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, people, we have to respect where people are in their spiritual journey. And then on top of that, we have free will. So we
Right.
can't interfere with people's free will. We
Right.
can't interfere with it.
Right.
And we can't
Right.
interfere with their path. The most you can do is just drop the information.
And
Exactly.
Here you
and
go.
and-
Ta-ta.
That's
wait,
right.
and wait for them to come back around.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
Maybe I'll still be available.
And what you're gonna find, or we don't even see it, but once we drop that seed, the spiritual team starts giving them signs.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what?
And it's up to them whether they want to be aware of it or
Yes.
not.
Yeah,
yeah,
Like the
exactly.
They close their mind to it,
Yeah.
or they really observe. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
For me, when I started my journey, they would show me videos. Videos would pop up, the same video, and I wouldn't click into it, and finally said, let me click into this thing and see what they want me to see. Because I started understanding the patterns of them
Right.
trying to talk to me and tap me on my shoulder. So
Yep.
it's a beautiful experience.
It
I want to
always,
ask you with the
yeah.
quantum healing,
Mm-hmm.
when you listen to your audio, because I need the audience to understand is that this is all recorded, and whether Janine or I or any other people that we work with, when they send the client the audio, the client is in their home comfortably listening to it. Were you surprised by the past lives that you had lived?
No, the one of them I was already connected to even as a child.
Okay.
And I somehow remembered this piece of that small piece, but I had already kind of knew the basics of it, and I just got more information.
Okay.
But the other two, oh yes, and because there was another one that was related to, like when I said my husband was my father in that one.
Okay.
That was a significant life, and it was related to why we were together in this life.
Right.
And the other one, where there was the general, so to speak. Anyway, I won't go into that, but that one was relatively new. I didn't know much about that life,
Okay.
so that was a new one. But I will say I would just like to add one little thing, and it was something to what you said about how isn't it amazing that this person agreed to come here to be the villain and to inflict
Yes.
this and the soul contract.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up that one thing we all need to understand is that we have so many lifetimes.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
So someone saying that they're going to be the villain in one particular lifetime, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
all right, because
Yes.
we don't need to worry about, but why is he going to waste their life doing that? Why don't they do,
Yes.
They are actually helping advance, because
They
nothing is
do.
wasted.
That's
They
right.
do.
They're if that person is helping me advance in this life, I'm going to be able to help others, just like you
Definitely.
ladies are helping so many people, and everyone's contributing, in the best way that we know how.
Right.
And so it's all leading to this beautiful manifestation
Exactly.
of sharing and caring and just helping others to elevate. It's all connected to that.
And
the
in
villains
relation-
too.
In relation to what you're saying,
And awareness. The awareness is important. I didn't mean to cut you
Definitely.
off. People
No,
need
no.
to be aware of it.
yes, yeah. And for villains, it's also, while they're doing that job, like you said, they get credit for that. The spiritual world is very clever on whatever lessons they have to learn. Trust me, you signed a contract for him to learn certain lessons
Yes.
in the midst. So it goes hand in hand.
Yes.
Also, too, we had previously mentioned that, because I had this question for a while. The first question I had was, do villains develop karma?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to get into that.
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
so they don't develop karma until once the job is done, they start getting heavy messages from the other side, letting them know it's time to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is sometimes they don't know how to stop. And that's when they start developing the karma. So I commend villains because you literally are gambling. You're sacrificing yourself for this individual, knowing that there's a possibility that because the veil of the unknown is on us, that when we get these signs, like we always get the signs of stop eating all that junk, and what do? We still eat that junk.
Yesterday, when I ate that cake.
Have it, yeah.
So
have it.
when they're getting these signs, they do the same thing as somebody who overeats. They I hear you. I'm gonna still curse that bitch out.
Yeah.
So when it's time for them to stop, and then that's when they start developing karma if they don't know how to stop. So I just need to put that out there because I know some people are looking at us like we're crazy. Like, so you're saying being a villain is a wonderful thing? It is indirectly because you're doing a service for someone to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
But there is a time where you're supposed to stop.
And that's the
Right.
thing. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying awareness is important, because once you
Yes.
become aware of it, you actually do stop. When
Some people stop.
Some people
stop,
people
yeah.
stop. But that's why awareness is critical, and not only for the individual that's performing the negative act or being the villain,
Yeah.
but obviously for the person that is on the receiving end of it.
Definitely.
Once you become aware who your villain really is, that
Yes.
villain doesn't have power over you
They
anymore.
don't.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
Just
They
like
don't.
them hating bitches in my life. Y'all ain't got no power over me.
No, so keep hating.
No, they don't.
So I
Yeah.
just wanna finish up the story because I'm pretty sure that our audience wants to know what actually happened to your husband in the end.
So when I ended up in the hospital, the ambulance came. I had cousin-in-laws that were nearby us, and they came. Of course, police wouldn't let them come near the house.
Yeah.
And they told me that he apparently, and police had confirmed this later, that he decided he was going to attack them, and he knew that they would shoot him, and so he passed away.
Okay.
So
he didn't
that's
make it out.
exactly. So it was like suicide by cop, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, but God bless him. And to
Yes.
be honest with you, from the outside looking in, what we all know, sitting at this table, being
Yeah.
as elevated as we are, I want to actually, I'm sorry that you went through the experience,
Definitely.
but I want to commend him for the sacrifice that he made in your life.
Yes,
Definitely,
yes, and I wrote a
definitely.
letter to him about it,
Aw.
of forgiveness. But I also know that he chose to stay here because he had an opportunity to check out way before I met him. He had a coma. He was in a coma
Wow.
from his first marriage, and he had always questions. Very just quick, interesting story. He questioned why he was still alive.
Right.
Wow.
And I didn't catch it at the time, but I caught it later. It's like, why would you ask that? Why would you ask, why are you still alive? But anyway, at the time when he mentioned it to me initially, he says, oh, yeah, I asked God why he spared me during that accident. And I immediately said, oh, you had to marry me. He just barely got the words out, and I responded like that. And then I came back later that day, and I said, wait a minute, where did that come from?
Right.
I didn't know why I was supposed to be here. Well, you're supposed to marry me. And then I'm like, wait, Like,
Yeah.
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 it was a soul contract.
Yeah.
Mhm,
That's deep, because
is.
we've
Yeah, 'cause
all gone through that, especially going through quantum healing. And when
Yes.
you start putting the puzzle pieces together
Oh,
of
yeah.
why
Mm-hmm.
certain events occurred in your play, in your lifetime, that you're just like, oh, wait.
Yep.
Yes.
Now I get it. It was leading up to the
Yes.
punchline.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's so profound. It's
Yes.
so profound.
That was mind blowing.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Now, in the end of your session, and I know we didn't really touch upon this because you hadn't completed listening to your audio, which is one of the requirements for when we do a follow-up, is that you had some of your ancestors, people that had passed on, that actually came through
Yes.
in your session.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
How was that for you when you finally listened to it?
It was delightful.
Yeah.
It was delightful, especially. Well, I knew about my mother.
Yeah.
Because as some of my family members talk about who don't believe in this stuff.
Yeah.
They talk about, I dream about her all the time. I dream about her. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, of course, she's always around.
Yeah.
She's just like talking to you at night when you're resistance and you're totally free and open. That's the
Indeed.
only time
In
they
the
can
dream
reach-
state.
Exactly, can reach you. So so she shows up in about 75% of my dreams.
I love
Oh, wow.
So I was happy to hear from her, and then two other people. One, of course, was my paternal grandmother,
Yes.
Okay.
who I guess based on karma was sent to protect me because of she wasn't here to support me when she was alive,
Okay.
and she caused the family kind of tension. And she just chose not to really be a part of my life.
Right.
I did meet her, and but she caused a lot of family tension, and I can respect that now because I understand her life was hard.
Yes.
It was hard.
Yes.
'Cause
Perspective is everything.
She was born late 19th century, so we're talking like in the late 1800s.
Right.
Okay. So when black
it's
people
like,
had it.
woo,
Yeah.
it was rough for everybody.
Yes.
Didn't matter what color you were, even for
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was rough for everybody, 1930s bread lines and all these types of things and all this craziness that went on. So I get it now. I can understand. As a child, I didn't understand, but as an adult who's really fully aware and spiritually connected, I understand now.
Yeah.
And she's there to kind of help now because she knows that she caused a lot of pain when she was here. So it's amazing because now they're in a loving, beautiful, heavenly
Realm.
environment. Yeah, the realm is.
I love talking to your loved ones, especially
They
your
were
uncle.
cool.
Her uncle was cool as shit.
Yeah, he was something else. Ooh. Yes, he was.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. So what do you think now? Have you noticed any changes as far as your spirituality after you've had your quantum healing?
Well, it adds to my growth.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's never over.
Any dreams increase?
Yes.
Anything like that?
Not any increased dreams. I
Okay.
was always having the dreams, and just my dreams have always been pretty reasonably pleasant, which is good, and sometimes not as good because sometimes I have a hard time remembering because nothing stands out.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but yeah, they've been good, and your mom is still around.
I love it.
Showing up.
Yeah. That's hot.
That's the indeed. We gotta
Yeah.
believe it, man, because that's for sure. Their job doesn't stop.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
No, it
and
doesn't.
they get kudos. They get points
Yeah.
on the other side for helping us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they get to elevate
Indeed.
to another chapter with helping us.
Yes.
Indeed.
Now,
Exactly.
when it comes down to your husband, do you ever feel his energy around you?
Not that often, but he did show up in a couple of dreams.
Perfect.
Yeah, here and there. Just like
Okay.
I want to say maybe 5 to 10% of the time. Just
Okay.
and then sometimes it's just an in and out thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a brief
Do you feel like that was his way?
cameo appearance.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, hey, I'm okay. You feel like he was trying to tell you like he was okay?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear
Well, I pray
that.
that he's still
Yes.
working on his consciousness
Yeah,
too, and he
definitely.
understands the sacrifice that he
Yeah.
made.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
One of the things for me is I was asking God and my spiritual team, did you have any messages towards this show? And the message they gave me was, because we're talking about quantum healing, is that for the audience to understand is when you do this quantum healing, you go to previous lives. And I remember one Black woman I had, we went to 4 different lifetimes, and each lifetime she was a white person. Mm-hmm. So I remember the 4th time she was like, I'm white again. So, and it's really, God said to me today, let people understand is that if all of us could get quantum healing, the hatred against one another would stop.
It would immediately.
Because you have been different cultures, different religions. You have lived different lives. You've been on other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. So quantum healing actually opens you up to the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your perspective on life and the way you view people would definitely change. Because if you find out that you were an Asian person in a previous life, then why are you so mean to Asian people now?
Right.
You know, so that was the message God gave me today, was like, you know, let people know that this is a beautiful experience and that racism would be looked at totally different if they had the experience of doing quantum healing.
Keisha, I love that.
Yes.
But we're going to save that for another show. That's a whole, that's a whole
That's
show
a whole,
in itself.
It is.
I saw a short on YouTube, this Black comedian talking about he was white in another lifetime. And he had us rolling.
Well, he said he had good credit and was getting loans.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's right.
I love it.
Right.
I love it. Sonny, this has been such an enlightening experience for us.
Wow.
Definitely.
And you're the one that went through it.
Yeah.
So enlightening for me too. It's been beautiful. Are you kidding? Of course, it's been wonderful. It's so nice to meet people who are uplifting, and that was one of my prayers.
Yeah.
Good.
See, Spirit let me.
And Janine was a perfect person for you.
Oh.
Yes, both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
We wish you so well on your spiritual journey.
Thank you.
And you know, like I said to you before, I would love to be a part of your ongoing growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I love the connection. I just think that you're just such a beautiful and advanced soul.
Yes.
So I wish you well on the podcast. Tell everybody how they can find you.
So my Instagram is instagram.com/sunny_TLC.
Okay.
The website is sunnytlc.com. And my YouTube is @sunnytlc, all one word.
Perfect.
@SunnyTLC. We gotta follow Miss Sunny TLC.
Yes.
And you know, I wanted to say for you, Janine, because one of the things for us when we do this quantum healing, it's a little hard when you're dealing with a newbie, because not only are you doing the quantum healing and the coaching, you're kind of like planting seeds in that person, because they looking at you sideways like, wait, what are you talking about? So I think this was kind of like, it seems like it was like a breath of fresh air working with Sunny.
Yeah, because she was advanced.
She was already advanced. So it's kind of like you walked in the doors like, let me work with you. Like we got this.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
so I sensed that.
Interesting.
It was a little easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was definitely a blessing. So thank you,
Yes.
Miss Sunny.
Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate you so much.
We love your
And you're
energy.
so beautiful.
Indeed, she is.
Energy
Thank
inside
you.
and out.
Energy.
It's so refreshing
Yes.
to meet. It's been a struggle.
That's all right.
But to meet people who
Of the
are
same
But
kind, right?
just remember your lesson. You got to meet people where they are, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Yes.
I gotta meet people where they are.
And just drop it on here. Boop.
Yeah. That's right. Plant those little seeds.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Audience, man, this has been great. You know, we learned so much about villains once again,
Yes.
that our villains play a huge role in our lives, and religion, no matter where you are in your state of religion, we accept it. And it's quite all right. We're not expecting you to go from 0 to 100 right away. So listen, if you guys need to reach us, you can always click on the link below and find out how you can get your quantum healing and find out about your past, so you can elevate into something great, because we would love to share the experience with you. And most importantly, make sure you share this video.
Please do.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we have so much more content coming your way, people. So once again, the Twin Flames, we're so happy to have you in our presence today. So just remember, most importantly, people, that God is love. Love is the highest frequency.
Yes, it is.
And go and find the God within.
Amen.
Amen.